I'm able to share with this wonderful couple, this beautiful family, Mr. and Mrs. Rodney and Tamitha Downey, the steps that they are going to put in place starting today to change their financial future forever. The only thing that is a problem or their biggest obstacle is not using the power that they have and not having a plan to use that power. But we're gonna fix that right now. The biggest thing that's gonna give you the most power right now, and I remember when my husband and I sat down and we did this, and our children were young. They were minors, just like your children. You know, it was an emotional meeting that I had with my estate planning attorney because I had to start asking questions. What happens to my children if something happens to me and my husband? Jesus. After the tears rolled, then the analytical side got in and said, you better have some money to take care of them. You better have a plan in place. Where's the money going to come from? The question that we ask ourselves is, if something happens to me today, if something happens to my spouse today, who's going to take care of my children and how are they going to be taken care of? This is where you get to exercise the greatest power that you have available to you in the financial world, and that is making sure you have enough life insurance. So you're going to need to do a financial needs analysis. Most people go into the life insurance conversation with just a blanket number. Oh, I'll get $500,000. Will $500,000 pay off the mortgage, pay for their educations, send them to college, allow them to pass on wealth to their children, help them start a business? And what if that happens at a young age? Will that money last for the next 15, 20, or 30 years? In most cases, most of us do not have enough life insurance to be able to satisfy those very real needs. One thing that I want to really, really hone in on is people do not die in chronological order. So our job as parents is to ensure that if something happens to us, if something happens to one of us, because the other part of it is, well, if one of us is still here, they'll be okay. How do you know? What if the other one grieves? What if the other one can't make any decisions? What if the other one, just has a major setback that prevents them from advancing in the way that they normally would if the other person was here? So the way to solve that is to get, and I recommend most families with 2 children working with an income and with the resources that you have, I recommend at least 7 figures in life insurance. And when you sit with your life insurance, and remember, numbers add up very quickly, you'll be able to see, oh, we'll need this much to pay off the mortgage. We'll need this much to do this. We'll need this much for a college education. We'll need this much for all of these different things. And then what about passing on the legacy? Now, that's choosing the right instruments, all right? You want to make sure you've got a home-based business, minimize those taxes so you can now repurpose that money to go towards retirement and teach your children how to be entrepreneurs. 2, you want to choose the right funds. 3, you want to make sure you've got the right life insurance products. The next thing you want to do is have a plan, okay? So when you have a plan, you have peace. When I put my estate plan together for the first time, I was still grinding. Matter of fact, I was broke as a joke, okay? I was broke as a joke, and I was broke as all get out. I was still trying to recover and figure out. I had a vision, but I had not quite completed the vision. We were still operating in the vision, my husband and I. But when I put this estate plan in place, every single night, I went to sleep with a peace that surpasses all understanding. There's nothing like going to bed at night, knowing that if something happens to you, if you don't wake up tomorrow, you get in an accident, or if you live and there's a life event, that your family is taken care of financially. And the burden is not on you to try to figure out what's going to happen to them. Okay? So in your estate plan, not only are you going to identify what goes in it and who gets what and when, you'll also have to determine who would take care of your children in the event that something happened to you, right? So for us, the person who would take care of the children was not the same person who would take care of the money. And I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, but that was just the truth. Because if it's somebody with kids, they might be eating French fries off of your dollars, and that's not going to work. I mean, that's just the way it is. Things happen like that. But more importantly, the person that we chose, it wasn't a matter of trusting that person. We knew they would take care of the kids, but that person did not have any money knowledge. So what was she going to do with the money? What was she going to do with the resources? So we ensured that we had a plan in place that could guarantee our peace. All right. So the plan was there. The money was there to finance everything. Well, then you get to number 3. You want to make sure that you leave instructions. You leave instructions. So now it's not about someone inheriting the resources that you put in place. And then, quite frankly, these are some honest and real situations. Sometimes the kids get an inheritance and they spend it up on nonsense.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do that out of rebellion and grief and other things. Sometimes a significant other comes into their lives and convinces them to do some other things with it. Sometimes they may get married and they don't have a prenup, and then there are all these things that can happen. So in addition to exercising your power by choosing the right instruments, putting a plan in place to make sure that those instruments are run by the proper people, the last thing is making sure that you put in instructions. So if something happens to me, first of all, my life insurance money would go into an annuity, a significant portion of it. The reason why an annuity is beneficial is because now you've created an income for life. So what happens to an annuity, let's just say, for example, you wonder how these famous families globally over time for hundreds of years, how they've passed on wealth down from generation to generation. It's because, let's say they put in $5 million in principal. That $5 million generates a monthly income. Let's say the income is 10% of what the principal was. That's $500,000 a year.
Right.
So they may only live off $250,000. Now they're left with $5,250,000, the rest that they didn't use, and now that's earning interest. So they're living off the interest. The principal never disappears.
Right.
And so when the beneficiary gets the money, it passes on to their heirs when they pass on, and their heirs when they pass on. And all of this is outlined in a trust.
Wow.
That's where trust funds come from.
Yeah.
So the big news, the house, the mansion on the hilltop for you is that you have the power to create the trust that I just described. And you have the power today.
Oh, wow.
You have the resources today.
Okay.
You have the decision-making ability today. And if you don't start out with a multi-million-dollar trust, it's okay. You can start out wherever you're comfortable, whatever your funds will allow, and you can adjust it, right? So, I have a kind of a joke in my family, but it's not really a joke. When some cultures, when their heirs and their loved ones pass on, everybody's at the funeral crying, don't want to leave the funeral. You want to jump in the casket. And we so just distraught that we go to the repast. And some cultures, when there's a funeral, they're dignified because they know that they're going to the attorney's office on Monday to discuss the estate. ESTATE, the estate. That's what you'll have, an estate plan. We are going to the repast and we're going to eat a steak, STEAK. That's all we got. Okay, an indigestion. Because somebody's macaroni and cheese wasn't right. Did they put some sour milk in here? What is going on with the macaroni and cheese? And who made the potato salad? See, that's what we talking about after a funeral. And then we fighting over Big Mama's jewelry and shoes and the coat, stuff that we're never going to wear anyway. We've got to do better. And guess what? You can do better right now. And I am so excited about that. So your instructions will state who gets what, when they get it, how much they get. Do they have to complete their college degree? Can they start a business? Do they get X amount when they get married? Is there a wedding fund? How much do the grandchildren get? What does it, you can just keep going on and on and on. And when you establish the first set of rules, then in your estate plan, and it's thick, it's like really thick, it's about this thick, it will then state what happens to those funds after you pass, after your heirs pass, and their heirs, and their heirs, and their heirs, and it keeps going. Now you can update the estate anytime you'd like, all right? So in my estate, there are some people who think they're gonna come to the estate planning meeting, okay? And they're gonna think they're getting some money, and they're gonna get a letter that says, psych, you ain't getting nothing until you finish school. Psych, you ain't getting nothing until you get yourself together. Now, when you get yourself together, this is what's going to be here waiting for you. So this is also an incentive. to help our family members improve themselves while we hold them accountable and not be enablers. We're actually able to help people get to the next level. So what you're going to hear later on, you're going to hear from attorney Deidre Wood Stokes. And she is the co-author. She actually wrote the whole book. I just did the testimonial part of it. But Estate Planning Made Simple. And when you complete this workbook, you'll have everything that you need. So when you go in and speak and have your official estate planning conversation, you'll have at least all of your documentation on paper. Because one of the things you said, Mrs. Downey, is that you didn't know what you had. Like you're trying to find all of the stuff. Let me tell you, I had to go dig bank accounts out the backwoods, child. I found money in them too. I was like, come on, Natalie Richardson, you got some money over here too. I'm going on a shopping spree. And as soon as I think I'm going on a shopping spree, I get to, oh no, I can't do that. It's not a tax deduction. You know, so those things kind of kick in. But the beauty of this is that you have power. Like this is not something that you have to wait on. You don't have to wait 20 years until you retire to pass on a legacy to your children. You don't have to wait until you find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or get a winning lottery ticket. You don't even have to wait for your retirement fund to accumulate. You can do this now.